We are delighted to have one of our favorite artists and people here with us, Marc-André Hamelin, who is also a juror and the composer of the commissioned work this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for
Good
joining us. You're famous for having one of the world's most extensive repertoires at the piano, and we're curious as a judge, do you assess the composer's repertoire selections with like a little more intensity? Do their programs have the potential to sway your vote?
Well, I like to think that, they chose what they can do best.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't judge repertoire.
Yeah.
Really. But and if they can carry it off, then it doesn't matter really what they play, I think.
Well,
that's bottom line.
That's good.
Oh,
really.
good point. Now that we're in the chamber music round, what are you listening for? Personally for you, what do you think are the primary challenges of playing chamber music?
Well, understanding of the work, of course, and sympathy between musicians, and questions of balance. They're very boring technical considerations,
Yes.
I suppose. But all of these are, of course, necessary for a successful.
Yeah.
There's many musicians in the crowd, so I'm sure they're happy to know.
Yeah. Earlier when we spoke to you, almost a week and a half ago now,
That's
at
right,
the beginning of the competition, you mentioned you hadn't actually judged many competitions over the course
That's
of your
true,
life.
yeah.
Now that you've gone so far into a competition as a juror, have you noticed any unexpected challenges from the role?
Well, not really. I mean, it's pretty much what I expected. I had judged 2 international competitions before, and the first one actually was something like 21 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
I don't do it very often, but each time it's a renewed pleasure. The last one I did actually was the Grieg competition in Bergen, Norway, and that was 2012. And it wasn't as long as this, but still it required a lot of us, and because I remember we had to listen to 12 recitals in a single day once.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
And I think they were like 45 minutes each, just like
similar
here.
to what we had in the
So,
quarterfinal round.
You really, it's a duty to be as sharp
Yes.
at the end of the day as you were at the beginning.
Wow.
Right. So we have heard 30 premieres, basically, of your work, Toccata and La Marmé, which is the commissioned work. Having heard it that many times and playing it yourself, has it affected your own approach, your own interpretation of the work, or even are you reconsidering some of the markings or indications in the score?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, I have a pretty definite idea of how it's supposed to go, and I really tried to indicate it as well as I could in the score. But when I heard some of these performances, I realized that there were perhaps other possibilities which contribute in making the piece just as convincing. Some of them I don't necessarily agree with, but I could accept them, let's say. There's in a couple of cases, there are actually some sort of contrary impulses, like a diminuendo instead of a crescendo, for example. That kind of thing either worked or didn't, but most of the time I think it was convincing.
Fantastic.
And I have to say I'm completely blessed in having. I mean, what composer has 30 premieres? And I don't think that in the history of piano competitions there have been so many performances of a commissioned work.
Right.
Extraordinary.
Oh, well,
there's an award given for the commissioned work by the jury. We're curious, does your vote get any added emphasis? Or are you just still
according to
one of
the
9?
competition rules, no, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel that it should, but along the lines of premieres and new music, which composers now are you most interested in and even working with?
Living composers.
Oh my God! I am not really very active in that field, so it's very difficult to answer.
Sure.
And I keep up a little bit, but I would be hesitant to name any names at this point, simply because I don't pay enough attention, I suppose.
Right.
Well,
Well,
you
you're
have
writing your own music.
That may change.
Well, and of course your own music. We should heartily recommend to our audience.
Which I don't push very compulsively.
It's so good.
Schubert is too wonderful.
But you've gained many new fans here, I think,
Yes,
through
we
your
hope
piece.
so.
Well, it really exceeded my wildest dreams, because the piece seemed to please people, which I couldn't have asked for anything more.
It was a hit.
It was a hit. Well, you've hit so many different facets of the piano repertoire over your lifetime, in your recordings, in your concerts. And we're curious if there are any areas that you are looking forward to exploring as your career continues, or any areas that you want to particularly avoid.
Avoid.
Yes. It doesn't interest you.
Yeah.
I'm not too enamored of minimalism.
Okay.
As a general rule, there are some exceptions, some isolated pieces,
Right.
but that's really not a priority. I'm very involved with the music of Samuel Feinberg at the moment.
Yes, tell us about that.
We heard one of his arrangements during the competition, which is probably his most
famous.
played
Yes.
arrangement. But he was a fascinating composer, not for everybody. But I think that if he's really rendered well, then he can be absolutely fascinating. I mean, a welcome change, for example, from Prokofiev or Scriabin, perhaps.
Yeah,
Both
absolutely.
both of which I really liked.
Several sonatas, correct?
He wrote 12 sonatas
12.
actually, and I'm concentrating actually on the first 6 sonatas right
my
now, which I'll be recording next year.
Must be formidable writing, yes,
Yes,
because he was
good
quite
luck.
the pianist.
It's complex, harmonically, like nothing else.
Wow.
Especially after from the 4th sonata on. I mean, you can't really relate him to anything.
incredible.
The first 3 sonatas very much, well, I wouldn't say they resemble early and middle Scriabin, but you can certainly relate the two.
So,
And he himself recorded Scriabin quite a bit and was very good at it. I mean, he was a wonderful pianist.
Yeah.
on a non-musical note, do you ever take a vacation? And if you do, what do you
should.
do? What do you do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Or not do, I suppose.
Well, it's funny, you know. If I do take a vacation, I'm still thinking about music.
Yeah.
You know, it just never ever stops.
It's inevitable. All right,
Yeah.
finally, 3 words to describe Fort Worth.
You can use 4 if you need to.
Or 2, whatever.
Incredibly awesome. That's true.
Oh,
well,
that's great.
you're,
Yay! It's 3.
you're incredibly awesome. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Thank you
Mark.
so much for joining us.